Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you guys how I meal plan for my family. I don't always have time to do this, but when I do, I love to do this. It helps so much during the week when I'm working and I'm a busy working mom. So this comes quite handy. So I am just going to jump right in and start. The first thing I do is I shop my own home. I shop my pantry, my fridge, my cabinets. I see everything that I have. I look at the meat selection that I have. So I base my meals around the meat I already have so I don't end up buying more than I need. Then I look at my veggies, the canned goods, and I have an idea already what I can make. So I basically just get a paper and I write everything down, and this gives me a visual image of what I have at home. And the more I have, the more I can save without having to buy more ingredients than I need to. So by looking just at what I have, I'm already knowing what I can make, and this is an excellent way for me to save money. And then I just write all the ingredients that I do need to buy and anything extra that we are out of, and then I just snap a picture and I go shopping. So now we're just going to give you guys a little grocery haul. And what I did buy, I got a few bags of potatoes and also grabbed some bread for the kids. I love this Dave's Killer Bread. Then I got some milk. We're always running out. And then got my nut pods, my creamer that I like for my coffee. Then I got some butter, ketchup, some bell peppers, and then I got some ricotta cheese, a head of lettuce. I got some cherry tomatoes and my favorite sparkled water. Got some cheese, some cheddar cheeses. I'm going to grate those. And then got a little treat for the kids, some cookie dough. They can make cookies from those, and some eggs and bananas. And that is all I got from my haul. So let's just get cooking and start from the beginning. What I'm going to do, I'm putting a pot to boil to make my lasagna. This takes a while to cook, so I'm going to put it right there. I'm adding oil and a little salt, and oil prevents the noodles from sticking to each other. So I'm putting the noodles in and waiting for them to soften. Meanwhile, I'm cooking up the beef. I'm using 2 pounds of ground beef here. And then I'm going to chop up a large onion. I'm using a yellow onion here. You can use any onion, it doesn't really matter. And after it's all chopped, I'm going to add it into my meat once it's all browned. And I'm going to season the meat right now. And what I use to season is garlic powder, salt, pepper, and also some Italian seasoning. And mix it all up until it's ready. And then I'm going to add 2 cans of chopped tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes, anything you have. I've used fresh tomatoes, it works just as great, but I had the cans of tomatoes, so I'm adding those and mixing it all in. And then I'm going to let it cook and basically just sit and cook it for another about 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm also going to keep an eye on my noodles to make sure they're all evenly cooking until they're al dente. Now I'm going to start the meatballs for the lasagna meatball soup. I'm just adding an egg yolk to a pound of meat and some salt and pepper. Mix it all up. You can use a hand mixer or a stand mixer, but I'm just using my hand to prevent extra dishes. And then I'm just going to roll them into little balls. I'm placing them on a cutting board because this is what I'm putting it into the freezer for about an hour or two until they're frozen, and then I'm going to transfer them into a freezer bag, and then I'm gonna use it when I need to, and I'm not planning to use these until a few days later for my meatball soup. After the lasagna noodles have cooked and they are al dente, I'm adding a little oil here to mix it all up so to prevent them from sticking. They're still very hot, so I'm being careful. And then I'm going to start making and preparing my cheese sauce for the lasagna. I'm chopping up a good few handfuls of spinach. I love adding spinach into my meals as much as I can. I'll add them in to add extra greens. So I'm adding some spinach. and then I'm going to grate some cheese. I believe this is the white cheddar. I don't really have a preference for cheese. I just use whatever I have, and so I just added some cheese. I don't like having a lot of cheese in my lasagna. I just think it's so unnecessary. All the cheeses just makes the meal so heavy. So I just add the can of ricotta, an egg yolk, some salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. Mix it all up, and this is finished for my lasagna. And so I'm going to start preparing the lasagna because the meat sauce is ready, the cheese sauce is ready, and the lasagna noodles are ready. So I'm adding a little oil to my pans. I'm gonna make 2 lasagna pans, and the smaller one is going to be for tonight, and the larger one I am going to let it cool and place it in the freezer for another day. So I'm placing the noodles here. The larger pan, the noodles fit perfectly, and in the smaller pan, I'll have to cut them to fit. And what I do is first I put in the cheese mixture, and then I add the meat mixture, and then I repeat the layers. Again, I don't like to add a lot of cheese. I only use the cheese in the the cheese mixture, and then I add it on the top to cover up the lasagna, and that's it. I think it makes it so beautifully delicious and not super heavy and fat. So that's what I do, and I love it. This is one of my favorite lasagna recipes. I love how it turns out. It's so good all the time. And I will let you guys know that I actually did lasagna with homemade noodles one time. Oh my goodness, those are super good. But I had lasagna noodles and I wanted to use it up, so I'm not gonna waste time making my own this time. So that's all I'm going to add here, and then use some shredded cheese. It's a mix of Colby and cheddar, and I'm just adding that up. Again, not a too big of a layer, but just enough to cover it up, and I'm going to let it cool and then start on my second pan. I am going to place the larger pan in the freezer. I'll make sure to cover it up, and when on the day that I will decide to cook it, I will make sure to take it out ahead of time to defrost it and then pop it in the oven until it's all bubbly all over to cook it all through. And that is it for the lasagna. I do not like to waste ingredients, and since I have so much of the lasagna noodles left, I'm chopping it up into kind of like pasta shapes, and this will be my lasagna meatball soup, because why waste these when I can use this up? So now I'm starting my veggie chicken patties, and I'm just starting with chopping a medium onion or large onion, it does not really matter. And I am also going to chop up a large bell pepper. You can use any bell peppers you want, but I do really love the taste of the green pepper here in these patties. And you can also use shredded carrots. I've done that before and they are perfectly delicious. These veggies will make these patties so flavorful and so juicy. Oh my goodness, they're so good. I'm adding 2 pounds of ground chicken here. You can also use turkey, but I personally like the chicken. I am oiling my hands to prevent them from sticking to my hands, and rolling them into little patties and frying them until they're golden brown, and then I'll flip them over to cook on the other side. And these are really good as dinner with a side of mashed potatoes. You can make some gravy for that, a side salad, really delicious. And you can also use them for lunch, for like little sandwiches or burgers. You can slice them in half and make them to make them thinner. They're super good. I also love them for breakfast as a side with like something like a porridge or oatmeal. They reheat very well, and I absolutely love making these because they, like I said, they reheat well and they're really good for snacks and lunch and breakfast, basically everything. So next I'm going to start by marinating the meat that I have defrosted. I have 2 chunks of meat here. One is a chuck roast, I believe, and one is a sirloin cap. And I'm going to season it with garlic powder, Montreal seasoning, some salt, and adding some avocado oil, rubbing it in until it's completely coated, and I'm placing them in the fridge until the day that I need it. And basically that's all I'm doing. But what I'm going to do now is start my lasagna meatball soup. Right, I have my frozen meatballs, I have my lasagna noodles from the fridge, I have some tomato basil pasta sauce, diced tomatoes. You can use any marinara sauce, it doesn't matter at all. You can use chopped tomatoes as well. I'm also adding spinach, of course. So I'm basically starting by adding the meatballs into a pot of boiling salted water and letting that cook for about 20 minutes before adding the chopped carrots. And but then I'm going to add the lasagna noodles to cook it all up and make it really, really um, delicious, because the noodles are already cooked. They're al dente from the previous video, so I add this in the end. And then I'm going to add a can of tomatoes and half of the sauce. You can, like, again, you can use any sauce you have, even you can use tomato sauce or marinara sauce, it just doesn't matter. And then I'm adding a whole bunch of spinach and letting it all wilt and soften into the water. Going to mix that all up, and I also added some veggie broth here, a veggie concentrate broth, and here's how it looks. This is such an easy meal. This literally took me like half an hour and I was done. So easy because the meatballs were prepared ahead of time, the noodles were cut ahead of time. I just had to literally put everything together and it's done. Very, very delicious. This is my version of a lasagna meatball soup. You can add shredded cheese on top to add a little lasagna taste to it. You can also add a tablespoon of ricotta cheese if you want, but this is how it is. Super delicious. And so yeah, on to the next day. I am going to use the meat that I have marinated. I'm going to sear it on high until all the sides are browned. And then after they're all browned, I'm placing them into water. You see the pot there behind me. It's slightly salted water. And I'm going to place the meat into the water and make sure the water covers the meat and let it cook from between 3 to 6 to 8 hours. It really depends on the size of the meat you have. The smaller piece was done within, I think, 4 hours, and the larger piece I took about 6 to 7 hours, I believe, to completely cook through. And I do cook it on low. As soon as it starts boiling, I transfer the heat to low, and that's when I let it cook for a lot of hours until it is fork tender. And when I mean fork tender, it literally falls apart with a fork, and that's how you know the meat is completely fork tender. And this is the best way to make this meal. I absolutely love it. So first I'm going to make beef stew. I'm using some onion, potatoes, carrots. I'm going to peel them and chop them, some bell peppers, and I'm starting by frying up some onion, and then when they are starting to brown, I'm going to add the bell peppers. Meanwhile, I'm going to start cutting up the potatoes and the carrots. I'm doing rough little chops. The smaller potatoes I'm only doing in half, and the larger potatoes I'm doing in about quarters or so. And the carrots, just large chunks. I'm just slicing them really fast, and then that's basically for my beef stew. When you prepare your meat ahead of time, it makes it so easy to prepare meals because the rest of the soup comes together in literally under 30 minutes. So I'm adding the root veggies here and adding enough water to cover up all the vegetables. And then I'm adding the can of tomato sauce here and adding it into the soup as well. Then I add my spices. I add salt, some pepper, garlic powder. You can also use fresh garlic here. I just wasn't into slicing up garlic, so I didn't do that. And then some Italian seasoning. These are my favorite spices that I use almost in every dish, and they are so good. So I just mix it all up, and then I'm going to add the beef into it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and then it is done. Because the meat had time to cook prior, It is so tender, so flavorful. And I'm adding here to a bowl with some brown rice noodles. You don't have to do this, but I just wanted some noodles in my soup. So they're perfectly delicious on their own. The soup is so good, and you can also thicken it if you like, but I do like it like a soup texture, not very thick. And then I added some chopped parsley, and this is my beef stew. Next meal is I'm going to make some beef bulgur pilaf, which is plov in the Mid-Eastern regions, I believe. And I'm just going to use the instructions here. I'm using double the recipe, and I just fried up an onion, added the bulgur, added the carrots, the water, the bulgur here. I added some beans. You can use garbanzo beans. I didn't have them, so I just added some white beans and cooked it until all the water evaporated and the bulgur fluffed up. And this is how it looks like when it's done. Another meal that came together literally in about 20 minutes because the meat was already done and all I had to do was cook the bulgur and add some carrots and onion basically, and that's it. I used the water from the beef. I did not drain that, so this pilaf turned out so flavorful, so delicious. I accidentally kind of came up with this recipe, and it is so good. I definitely make it a few times now a month because it is so good, and my kids love it because it is so good. The meat is so tender, and it's just so easy to eat for little kids. So this is it, you guys. I am done. These are all the meals I have cooked for this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the recipes and everything that I made and how I do my meal prepping. This may look different than what other people do, and that's totally fine. Everyone does what works for them. This is what I did, and this makes my life easier. And as long as it makes your life easier, that means you're doing the right thing. And yes, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye now.